Stand by. The vacuum tubes are warming up. This is a special live broadcast right here on Georgia Radio.
We're continuing our conversation with local Georgia authors. Mike Cobb has been no stranger to the literary scene in and around the big city of Atlanta. He's joining us now from his home. Mike, welcome to Georgia Radio. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure, Matt.
Your latest book, I'm assuming, is it Dead Beckoning or The Devil You Knew? Because there's two of them that are listed here, and you have more than just this.
Well, I have the two. I'm working on a couple of others right now, but yeah, those are the two. Dead Beckoning was the first,
and The Devil You Knew,
and The Devil You Knew is a bit more recent. I'm actually working on sequels to both of those books, plus a novella at the moment.
How did you get into this?
Oh gosh, I've been writing my whole life, Matt. I was talking to somebody the other day. I mean, this is sort of humorous. The first memory I have of writing was actually in second grade, and I wrote a poem about hula dancers, of all people, of all things. And I have no idea why, because I've never been to Hawaii, but and I'd never seen a hula dancer in the flesh. But I guess I saw them on TV or something, and just found them very intriguing and attractive.
Yeah. Maybe one of those episodes of Gilligan's Island. It came on, so. And there you were. Well, your body of work, it spans the breadth of fiction and nonfiction, as you mentioned, short form and long form. Were you a professional writer? I mean, did that become a career for you as far as what kept you busy during the day?
Not those genres per se. I actually was trained as a scientist. I have a PhD in physical chemistry, of all things. So I have been doing technical writing my entire life, professionally.
Yeah.
But I've also been doing creative writing on the side my entire life. But no, I was not a professional creative writer, although some might argue that some of the scientific papers I wrote were creative. But anyway.
Well, I find that scientists make the best editors, and by far, I think probably have a mastery of the technical side of the language that so many of us do not have. I mean, just exacting detail. So I'm sure you're great at all that.
And also, I have a passion for research. I mean, I write historical novels because I love history, but and historical crime, true crime. But I love history, but I also love doing the research as much as I love the writing. And I think a lot of that comes from my training as a scientist. It's a different kind of research, obviously, but it's still research.
Well, Dead Beckoning takes place in 1895, and one of the best things about Georgia, in my opinion, for research is the historic newspaper researchability, where you can just go in and search literally for anything, and it pulls it from all of these papers. Was that a resource you used on something like this?
Oh, most definitely. And I will tell you, Matt, going back when I first started researching Dead Beckoning, this goes way back. I mean, I researched that book 10 years before I wrote it. I spent hours at the Kennan Research Library at the Atlanta History Center actually going through old newspaper articles or old newspaper issues on microfilm. I do it on the internet now, thanks to things like newspapers.com. But I mean, I relied heavily on newspapers for much of the research that I did back in the day, or not just back in the day, but for the books I'm writing now, same thing.
Well, and I'm guessing like police reports and that kind of stuff, they were just non-existent back then. Lost to time.
Pretty much. I mean, Dead Beckoning is based on a cold case. That's one of the things that intrigued me about the story. Now, I fictionalized it and turned it into a historical novel, but it is still to this day an unsolved murder. Now, the police records don't exist any longer. But
how did you find this story? That was my other question, because I think it's a compelling story, obviously, but how did you stumble on it?
I was actually doing research at the Atlanta History Center, intending to write a book about an exposition that occurred in 1895 called the Cotton States and International Exposition. It took place at what is now Piedmont Park. And I was deep in the researching that it was really a World's Fair. I was deep into researching that World's Fair and reading newspaper articles, and I stumbled upon this first front page headline about this murder that occurred just several days before the fair was to open. And this prominent businessman was on his way to work and was gunned down. And he had been planning to go to the exposition because he was a merchant. And so I started researching this murder and got deeper and deeper into it and realized that it was an unsolved murder. And so I shifted gears, if you will, and shifted my focus away from the exposition per se and to this unsolved murder. Now, I will tell you, the Cotton States exposition plays a major role in the book, but it's sort of, I guess, ancillary, if you will, to the main plot line.
Well, and then obviously the next book, The Devil You Knew, takes place in 1963. I'm guessing comparing the two, as far as the research goes, the rabbit hole probably had a lot more twists and turns from 1963. There's a whole lot more information available, a lot more places to go look. Certainly. Yeah, and there's also there's a lot more information available, and I had a lot of personal things that I could tap into. Look, I was born and reared in Atlanta. I am roughly the main character's, Billy Tarwater's age, the main character in The Devil You Knew. There's a big coming of age element in that the first half takes place in 63, second half takes place in 1980. There's a big coming of age element in the 63 part of the book as Billy Tarwater is growing up. And while I am not Billy Tarwater, he lives inside of me, but I'm not Billy Tarwater. I will tell you, there's a lot of my memory in him, if you will, from growing up in Atlanta in the 60s. I love the name Tarwater. Isn't that great?
Yes.
Do names play an important part to you as far as, do you agonize over them, or do they just pop into your head?
I do. I agonize over them perhaps more than I should. I'm a member of a small writing critique group, and I just absolutely love my fellow writers, and we rely heavily on each other. And one of the main writing group members, he says, "Don't worry about characters' names. I mean, characters' names are fluid. They're fungible, if you will. They can be whatever you want them to be. But I think they're important. I think Tarwater was a really important name for Billy's character. The name of the sort of twisted Reverend, the Reverend Verlin Kilgallen, that's a really important name as well. That will become obvious to the reader if they read the book. I won't go into it here, but the choice of Kilgallen as the Reverend's last name is really important.
All right. Well, you've intrigued me now. I'm going to have to go figure this out. You're on your way down to the Atlanta Writers Club. We're recording this on Friday, and you're headed down there to go and take part in the conference. What has that club meant to you over the years? Because the Atlanta Writers Club stretches the entire state, really, and even beyond Georgia. But talk to me about what that's meant to you.
It's been a lot. I get a lot out of it, not only from the programs that are put on, but also just interacting with fellow writers. I've gotten to know quite a few of the people that attend. I will tell you, in the spirit of full disclosure, I don't go to the meetings as diligently as I should. But when I do go, I get a lot out of it, and I also get a lot out of interacting with a lot of the people that are involved, not only at the meetings but also online and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And I tell you, I'm also involved, of all places, in a writings group called the Henderson Writing Group, a writers group called the Henderson Writing Group in Las Vegas. It is similar in a way, but I don't know firsthand of another writing group that has become as extensive and as impressive as the Atlanta Writers Club. I think it's pretty unique. I've had conversations with the Henderson Writing Group about it, and I think they sort of would like to maybe. I can't speak for them, but I suspect they would like to extend their reach.
Yeah, the Henderson County group out in Nevada. Yeah, I would. Yeah, totally understand that. Boy, they have some great stories out there, don't they? A lot of intrigue and all kind of crazy stuff going on out there in Vegas. So it's not true.
We've got our share in the South. We've definitely got our share in the South.
Well, it's not true that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Not if you're a member of the Writers Club. It's anything is fair game out there. But the South. I was just talking to somebody this morning about this. They said, "What do you like about living here?" And I said, "Well, the art for one, and I will never forget. We were touring the home of Flannery O'Connor. Yep. And the gentleman that was taking the money that day said something that really stuck with me. He said, I think where there is much suffering, I think I'm going to screw this quote up, but I think he said, where there is great pain, there's great art." And he was talking specifically about it as a native Southerner. He said, it's just in the water down here. And I think that's so true. And you sort of capture this in both of your books. How can folks find your books right now if they wanted to, Mike?
Oh gosh, so they can certainly buy them online at the various outlets, bookshop.org. They can buy them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I'm in a few bookstores. Of course, they can because I distribute through a distributor that bookstores love. They can basically go to any bookstore and order my book. I'm in a few bookstores in Georgia. I'm in Bookbound Bookstore in Blairsville, Georgia. I'm in a couple of Barnes and Nobles here in Atlanta. But I mean, really, any bookstore, if a reader goes into the bookstore and asks to order the book, they can order it.
Great stuff. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to have to go find that. And, support your local bookstores. We just had a day honoring local bookstores.
Yes.
And what a great deal. I saw authors all over the state and beyond out there setting up tables and whatnot at the local bookstore. Songwriting, we have a lot of singer-songwriters that listen to Georgia radio. We have a lot of folks that just like classic country music and the storytelling that goes with it. But we also have a lot of folks that like to write. And it just amazes me how these two things really live together in the written word, whether it's, being, put to a melody or just put onto the page. There's so much great stuff happening here, and I just appreciate you being a part of that, Mike, and coming on Georgia Radio for a few minutes and sharing with us about your work. Great stuff.
Matt, it has been my pleasure.
Well, thanks again for coming on. And look, you get down to the Writers Conference, okay, and go learn something for all of us.
All right, and you take care.
You as well, Mike. So long.
Georgia Radio, on your phone, in your home, everywhere you go.